So, many of you guys have been wondering what are my thoughts on DC Rebirth. I think this video is long overdue given the fact that this relaunch event has been out since June. Technically May, but I say June because that month started the first wave of Rebirth comics. However, I waited until now to make this video because I wanted to see what are the changes this relaunch is going to do with the status quo of the DC universe and the effects of the characters involved. As of today, I finished reading every single issue DC Comics have released under the Rebirth lineup, or at least the ones that are currently available. Yes, that includes all the Rebirth one-shots and the current ongoing series. For this video, I'm just going to share my thoughts on the relaunch so far, the effects or changes it has done to the characters, or at least what I think has done to the characters, and explain what story each current comic lineup is telling. But before I do, surprisingly there is still confusion over what is DC Rebirth, so I'll just take the time to explain what it is. DC Rebirth is, like I mentioned before, a relaunch of the entire DC universe. It's not a reboot per se, it's more of a restoration. In a way, it's intended to restore the DC universe to its pre-New 52 roots while still incorporating the New 52 elements. The most important element that is included is the continuity of the New 52. So think about it like this takes place after the whole New 52 initiative. It's important to mention that because if you pick any of the comics up thinking that it will continue the continuity left in the pre-New 52, not only will you be disappointed, but you will also be confused as well. So far, the only changes I've seen are the return of pre-New 52 Wally West, Jackson Hyde the first Aqualad, Ryan Chow the first Atom, Ted Cord, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the first Blue Beetle, Ray Palmer, the first Atom, Dr. Faith, Superman, and Lois Lane. Yes, I know Pre-New 52 Superman and Lois Lane have been around before the Rebirth event, but I still want to throw them in case people are not aware of their existence, because they do show up in Action Comics and in Superman the comic book series. Also, the members of the Titans and Barry Allen are the only people so far that retain their memories of pre-New 52 Wally West. The character Pandora dies in the DC Rebirth special one-shot. There is no real explanation for that aside from Dr. Manhattan being responsible, and no one seems to give a shit. Then again, no one is really associated with her except the Phantom Stranger and the Question. However, no one has seen them in a significant period of time. If anyone has seen them, let me know in the comments, because I'm actually curious to see what happened to the Phantom Stranger and the Question. Haven't seen them since the Trinity of Sin comic book. In my opinion, I don't really have much thoughts on DC Rebirth. I mean, I like it so far, but I'm not even sure if it's because of the changes or the new creative team working on the comic series that, been released with the Rebirth lineup. But for now, I can't really say because nothing has changed dramatically yet, except for the changes that I mentioned before. Now, I'm going to just explain these stories that are going on in the current Rebirth lineup and give minor thoughts on them. Fair warning, I might be spoiling some things, but I'm gonna try my best to avoid that. Also, I don't have time to go to every comic book series that I've read so far. I'm probably gonna have to split this into two videos if I want to explain every comic that's released right now. So, first, let's start with Action Comics. The story revolves around Lex Luthor's attempts at trying to be the hero of Metropolis by taking up the mantle of Superman, while at the same time, pre-New 52 Superman finally reveals himself to the public due to the embarrassment it will be for Lex Luthor to be called Superman. Also, Doomsday shows up in here. So far, I'm enjoying the comic, but I have one major problem with it. Back in the pages of Justice League issue 52, there was a lot of emphasis that in Action Comics, the series will be centered around Lex Luthor and his attempts at gaining the public interest. He also seems pretty determined to take the Superman role and be the hero of Metropolis, knowing that there will be backlash or controversy for it. However, 5 issues in, I feel like they're trying to put him in the sidelines. I mean, just look at the recent issues. It's just Superman protecting his family from Doomsday. I mean, yeah, Lex Luthor gets some screen time, but I was expecting more than what we got so far. You see, when it was announced that Lex Luthor was going to take the mantle of Superman, at first I wanted to scream to the heavens and contemplate suicide, but then I thought this could be DC's answer to Marvel's Superior Spider-Man. And yeah, not a lot of people like Superior Spider-Man, but I'm actually one of those few people that enjoyed it because it was different. It provided a dramatic change to the Spider-Man mythos. So you could say I was You could say that I'm genuinely interested to see how DC would handle this, but what I've seen so far kinda disappoints me. Maybe it's the whole Doomsday thing, I don't know. Next we have All-Star Batman. So, Harvey Dent has a plan to finish Two-Face off once and for all, and that requires Batman to take him to a location just named The House. I know this might sound confusing, though you're going to have to read the comic for yourself to understand more, because I really don't want to spoil it for you guys. Two-Face has made a deal to everyone that he will reveal every secret hidden by everyone. To put it in his words, every skeleton in the closet, every visit to a bad place will be brought to light. However, if someone manages to free him and take down Batman, he will reward that person with the fortunes of the 3 biggest crime bosses in Gotham. This story plays on the idea of people's desire, whether it's money or keeping things a secret, and I like what I see so far. Also, the fact that it's written by Scott Snyder is a huge bonus. And currently right now there's only one issue, so I can't really explain more, but I can't wait to read more and see how this escalates, especially with the twist at the very end of the issue. Next is Aquaman. Tensions are rising between the Atlanteans and the United States government. Well, technically it's everyone on land, but you mostly see the United States involved. So for now, I'm just gonna call them the United States government until other nations are more involved in this storyline. Aquaman is trying to get both sides to come to peaceful terms with each other. However, with the return of Black Manta and an extremist Atlantean group, things are getting worse. So worse to the point where both sides are ready to go to war with each other. You know, whenever I think about politics in comics, the last thing I think about is Aquaman. This may be because I don't read a lot of Aquaman comics. In fact, the last time I read an Aquaman comic was Geoff Johns' run on the New 52. When they changed creative teams, I kinda dropped the book. So if there has been any political things going on in Aquaman, I sure as hell don't remember it. Or I probably haven't read the comic itself, so if you guys did see it, let me know. However, out of all the Rebirth comics, this series surprised me the most. I'm amazed at how good this comic series is on the exploration of the political tensions between the Atlanteans and the United States government, to be more specific. Also, you kind of have to give the United States government credit because of the events that happen in the New 52. A lot of people distrust the Atlanteans over the stuff that they did back then, so it kind of makes sense why at this point the United States can no longer trust them like they did before. And the thing that surprised me the most about this comic, it actually manages to get me to care about politics in this story. I mean, it's not like it's competing with anything interesting in politics anyway.
Creating new apps. I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
Next we have Batgirl. Barbara Gordon travels to Japan in search for a superhero who manages to survive for 104 years. She meets an old friend who is involved in a conspiracy, I guess. The series only has one issue, so there's really not that much to say. Given that it's only one issue, I can't really give an opinion on the series yet. However, after reading it, I can say I'm really not that interested in the series. But I'll give it a chance once more issues are released. Next is Batman, the solo comic book series. During Batman's attempts to prevent a plane from crashing into Gotham City, he encounters 2 new superheroes who are influenced by Batman. Batman, for a specific reason, takes it upon himself to help train these 2 heroes. Doctor Strange makes an appearance, and even Psycho Pirate too. I have mixed feelings about this series. While I'm interested in the new superheroes and the mystery surrounding them, I did pick this book up to read about Batman. I feel like even though Batman has the most scenes in the series, the story revolves around more with the 2 new superheroes, and Batman is just involved because... because. I don't know, it's not the first time I've seen stories structured like that, but personally, I don't like it. Okay, so let's see what's on the list. The next is DC Rebirth one-shots. Now, for this one, I'm only going to mention the one-shots whose series hasn't started yet, as of this day. I'm also going to be quick about it because, like Batgirl, there isn't much to say because there's only one issue. Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. Batgirl tries to bring back the Birds of Prey after finding out someone has taken the identity of Oracle and helping criminals. I like the comic, it's way better than Batgirl, and I'm curious to find out who Oracle is. DC Universe Rebirth, the one-shot. Okay, this is extremely difficult to explain because so many things happen in this comic. I would go as far as to say if you want to see all the changes that goes on in this relaunch, then read this one-shot. But honestly, I can't say more due to the massive spoilers. DC Universe Rebirth, the one-shot. Okay guys, this is extremely difficult to explain because so many things happen in this comic. I would go as far as to say if you want to see all the changes that goes on in this relaunch, then read this one-shot because it's all there. Honestly, I can't say more due to massive spoilers, but I would highly recommend you to pick this comic book up if you're ever curious about the status quo of the DC Universe. On top of that, it's a surprisingly pretty well structured comic, all things considered. Next we have Deathstroke, the Rebirth one-shot. I'm a bit confused about the story going on. It starts off as an assassination mission, then later the mission involves Wintergreen, Deathstroke's butler last time I remember him. Can't say much about it because I'm still confused, but I will give this series a shot just to see where the story goes from here. Suicide Squad. Oh man. The only thing you need to know about this one-shot is Amanda Waller is fat again because reasons, and she's trying to bring back the Suicide Squad by enlisting Rick Flag. I laugh at this comic because, honestly, I've never seen a comic so vanilla in my entire life. I mean, it's not god-awful like the Suicide Squad movie, but it's also not great neither. This issue doesn't get me to want to read the series, so I can't really say much other than that, but kind of like Deathstroke, I'll give this series a shot, and if I still continue feeling that way, then I'm just going to drop the book. And the last of the DC Rebirth one-shots that hasn't gotten the series started yet is the Hellblazer. The story is pretty simple, actually. John Constantine returns to London, comes across a demon, I think, who is trying to take over London. Constantine manages to con the demon and saves the city. Personally, I think this one-shot is filler. I say that because I read a bunch of articles on the route that DC is going with John Constantine, and from what I've read so far in the comic, it doesn't match the claims that I read in those articles, at least. But I can't wait to read more of John Constantine. I just love the character ever since my eye sockets were graced upon the Hellblazer comic from Vertigo and the recent storylines he's involved in Justice League Dark, the New 52. So, back to the main ongoing series, and the next we have Detective Comics. Batman has stumbled across a wounded Azrael. While questioning him, Azrael reveals that the attacker was Batman himself. Upon investigating further, he discovers that someone is spying on all the vigilantes of Gotham, but mostly Batwoman. So Batman decides to get Batwoman's help to train the next generation of heroes. Those heroes are Tim Drake, aka Red Robin. At least I don't think they call him Red Robin anymore, just Robin, but you get the point. Stephanie Brown, the Spoiler, Cassandra Cain, the Orphan, and Clayface. Wait, what? Yeah, if I remember back, Clayface has teamed up with Batwoman before, and it seems to me that they're trying to get him to be a good guy, which is not really a bad thing. It's just weird that they're doing it like this. From what I've read so far, I like what I see. However, I find it strange that they chose Detective Comics to be the series to focus on a more Bat family-oriented story, or just focus more on the Bat family. See, I was under the impression that Detective Comics was more about Batman, and we get to see more of him being a detective, you know, more displays of his detective skills and stuff. But I guess they decided to just leave that for the Batman solo comic book series, which is fine, but I wish they had mentioned it in like a previous interview or in an article or something, but I haven't seen any of that. So, again, I was under the impression that Detective Comics was going to be like that, but then when I saw the lineup, you know, that kind of threw me off. But so far, I like what I see. Let's see where the story takes us after a couple of issues, and then I'll probably let you guys know if this is worth reading or not. But so far, this is worth reading. To me, at least. Next is Green Arrow. Oliver Queen has built himself a reputation, a controversial one to be more specific. Even though he is a superhero, we see him paying off cops and even a witness just to keep them continuing working on, or at least working for, the good of the city. Black Canary, who decides to stay with Oliver Queen for the time being, is against him doing that. In the meantime, there is a group called the Ninth Circle who is planning on taking over Queen Industries, you know, the company that Oliver Queen owns, and kill Green Arrow. Like Aquaman, this series surprised me. I don't read a lot of Green Arrow comics, mostly due to my lack of interest in the character, And with that being said, I'm just gonna throw this right off the bat. I have not seen the show Arrow for that same reason. However, the comic did have a boring start in the first issue and the Rebirth one-shot, but as the series continues, things are picking up, which is good. I now like to see more of Green Arrow, and whenever a story makes me feel that way, it's always a positive. Next is Green Lanterns with an S. It's important to put emphasis on the S because of who are the main characters in the comic book series. The story revolves around the newly recruited Green Lanterns Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Hal Jordan decides to fuse their power batteries, which I didn't know was possible, as an exercise in order to encourage teamwork and cooperation, which is insane considering both of them need to charge their rings at the same time in order to get the battery to work. Meanwhile, the Red Lanterns are on the verge of extinction. I mean figuratively, not literally. Their connection to the Rage is deteriorating, and Atrocitus, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Yeah, Atrocitus, or whatever. Atrocitus is in desperate need to find the Hell Tower and to commence the so-called Red Dawn. I think that's how he calls it. The problem is the location of the Hell Tower is on Earth. Oh, and there's this secret guardian in possession of a mysterious ring that he created who is looking for Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart. I like this comic, and to be honest, that's pretty much all I got to say. I mean, I like the dynamic between Jessica and Simon. The Red Lanterns are back, and that's always a plus to me. And we have a new power ring. You still don't know what the power ring color is, nor what emotion it represents, but I'm going to take a wild guess that the ring's color is going to be a rainbow, and I'm assuming that the emotions is a mix of all the existing power rings. So this is the end of part 1. Let me know what you guys think of Rebirth so far and any of the comic book series that I mentioned in this video. I'm just going to take a much needed break, probably watch some anime or some bullshit. But anyway, my name is Biscuit Rebellion, and I'll see you guys in part 2. Peace.